Oh my goodness gracious. It's Beat Michigan week. Are you ready?
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Husker Nation DP here at 93.7 The Ticket. Lincoln, America, right dead in the middle. Right dead in the middle of the country of everything good. I want to thank you folks for joining us on Locked On Huskers, Locked On Go Big Red, making it the first and probably the best choice. Best watch, best listen each and every single morning here on the Locked On Sports Network. I want to thank the folks from BetOnline for what they allow us to do each and every day for you, Husker Nation, so that we can bring this to you. A couple of things, the numbers are pretty good this week. Of course, Nebraska 29.5. We talked about that yesterday. You know, we had that, the over-unders all over the place. But those numbers, are you scared? Are you excited? Are you ready? Are you ready? I'm going to take the temperature of the room today. What is your expectation? What is your feeling? Do you feel like Nebraska has a shot to make a show? Do you trust them? You can tell me in the comments. Do you trust Nebraska to go and handle this point spread and handle their business? I would be foolish, absolutely foolish, to sit here and proclaim that we can all relax, take a deep breath, and expect Nebraska to beat. Expect Nebraska to beat. Expect Nebraska to beat Michigan. But I'm pretty sure that we can expect for them to put up a fight, for them to be better. Once again, better. The mantra is simple. It's on the practice field. When you go to the practice field, it's lined up around the wall in big, bold letters. Day by day, get better and better. That's per player, that's per unit, that's per group, that's per coach staff, each and every member, every single thing, every single rep, every single responsibility, every single opportunity this week. At practice, prepare yourself. Be ready on Saturday. That's what the fan base wants. They want you to be prepared. They want to feel like you're ready to represent the end. That's not asking too much. That's not asking too much. And there's not a single player who goes through all the sacrifices that they have to go through each week to not be prepared. But there is a gap. There is a bridge between where this Husker team is and where it wants to be. And every bit of greatness requires friction. Friction is required, Husker Nation. You faced it against Minnesota. You know what it looks like. You know what it feels like. You should be comfortable in this. And then use that friction to propel yourself to better. You use friction to go forward. You use friction to go up. And greatness is when you go forward and up on purpose, on time, together. There's simplicity in this thing this week. And again, the numbers, a 29.5-point dog. Listen, I'm sorry. Those are fighting words. Those are fighting words. How dare you? Every former Husker player who ever put it on, from national champion to current edition, should be offended, should take it personal. What do you mean they're 30 points better than what? Those words should never happen. And you could take it personal, or you could take it light. But take it light is how you got here. Take it personal is how you get better. The phrase is you get sick and tired of getting your head kicked in, so you get sick and tired. And then you get up and you fight. You fight. You fight for your name. You fight for the university's name. You fight for your teammates, the person next to you. You fight for the fan base, the people who support you in full. There's work required this week. And you have the chance to be prepared. Be ready. Yes, all of the pageantry that's going to happen when you go to the big house and you will stand in the middle of the field. And the first, every team that I've ever been around and went to the big house, they stood on the 50-yard line and their heads started to swim, and their eyes got big and their hearts started to race a little bit. And they started to think back to every great moment that happened in that building, every great player. But what I'll ask, Huskers, will you be ready for that moment? Will you be ready for that moment? Will the moment be too big? Or will you swell up and match it? That's why you're here. That's why you wanted to play at Nebraska, because you get to go to the big house and you get to play Michigan. You know, oh, amazing. Oh, blah, 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 blah. It's nothing to be afraid. Look, you learned the last time you faced them, hey, not a big deal. They got to strap up too. And when you punch them in the jaw, guess what? They got to react and respond. Do you think they felt like, Appalachian State had a shot? Do you think they remember what it was like to be in the playoffs last year and to get their heads kicked in? See, there's a way to beat Michigan. Hasn't been done this year. They're 9-0, 6-0 in the Big Ten Conference. And their eyes are slightly skewed. Their eyes are slightly looking forward to bigger matchups, to bigger games, to more threatening opponents, to more formidable teams. It is a great chance, a great opportunity, Huskers. Work on your craft. Work on your skill. Work on your mind. Have that conversation with yourself to be prepared for that moment when you stand at the 50-yard line in the big house. Because after that moment, when your heart settles and you get the feeling back in your fingers and your legs grow back under you, you'll turn to your left and you'll turn to your right and you'll look at your brothers in red. And look at them. Find them. Be accountable to them. I've talked to quite a few players over the course of the last 10 days. They're searching. They know they're close. They're searching. But there is a switch that has to go on, and it has to go on now. You can't wait until you get to the big house. You got to figure it out this week of practice. Lots of questions. A lot of players have to flip. Chubba, time to flip the switch. Logan, flip the switch. Marcus Washington, flip the switch. All the fat guys up front, flip the freaking switch. And be ready for Michigan. First break, folks from BetOnline. And again, it's a beautiful thing. Look, I get a little excited when you start looking at those sort of props and odds, because they're different things. First team to score, what's the over-under period, quarter, halftime, who's going to do what. There's some interesting props and odds when you look at Nebraska and Michigan this week. Yeah, the numbers. This is an interesting series. Again, a 2:30 kickoff. ABC. Once again, Nebraska, you get a chance to be on national television, an opportunity to rebrand, redirect, relocate this program and this team. 4-6 looks a whole lot better than 3-7. Fair game, fair biz. Opportunity. Wouldn't it be really nice if that O had to go? That 9-0, that 6-0. The series is not that doesn't run that long. I mean, this series, Michigan leads at 6-4-1. course, they won the last one, 32-29 here in Lincoln, Nebraska. Harbaugh is 2-0 against the Huskers. They're the defending Big Ten champions. They should have zero fear of anybody. And in that is another opportunity. My favorite teams to play are teams that don't fear. That confidence and arrogance leaves an opportunity. I hate the phrase, but it's true here. Nebraska has nothing to lose, everything to gain. Play free, play fast. Tons of numbers. Blake Corum is the guy. He's the guy. Almost 200 carries, 1,187 yards, 16 touchdowns so far. And Nebraska fans cringe a little bit to think of, oh my goodness gracious, this might be the best runner we've faced. This might be a bit better than the guy that put up 115 last week. He's legit. And he's the part that's missed in this thing. Do you know why he's legit? He's not the best runner. No. Not the best athlete. Nope. Not the best game. Nope. He's tough. He's tough. Physical. Not the biggest back, not the fastest back. But he gets behind his pads, and then he gets behind 6 nasty, snorting, spitting bulls in blue. The offensive line from Michigan takes great pride in putting its foot in your chest. And they're consistent about it. They're constant and consistent. They want to punch you in the breastplate. They want to headbutt you. They want to distract you enough. They are massive. Massive. And athletic. But within that, there's an opportunity. Fill your gap. Do your job. And then put Blake Corum on his butt. Look, there's simplicity in this thing. Yards after contact. Circle that stat for Saturday. Yards after contact. Michigan, this offensive line will give you an opportunity to put a hat on Corum. The question is, how committed to finishing the play are you? Look, they're down Heinrich at linebacker. That's the thing. You got the young guns playing out there. They're out there doing their best. They're getting better each week. Often getting better series to series. But then they wear down. It's a great expectation to expect, 19-year-old, 215-pound linebackers to last, the full battle against 320-pound mastodons. But the phrase that we use in those situations is commitment to execution. Commitment to execution. When they get on the plane, when these linebackers and these bigs up front, the front 7 for Nebraska, when they get on the plane, they'll be committed to it. I absolutely believe they'll be committed to it. They'll put their shoulder pads in there. They'll try to wrap up, and they'll make plays. But what happens is those 320-pounders continue to lean on you. And they challenge that commitment to execution. Second quarter, still committed. But that lean becomes heavy. They regroup at halftime. They go in, and they start to look over at Bill Bush. We're going to need some support because the lean is starting to affect. Third quarter, still feisty, still committed. But the most difficult thing in all sports to do, finish. The most difficult thing in all of sports to do is finish. and you watched it on Saturday at Memorial Stadium. Now, Minnesota's offensive line is pretty good, but it's not Michigan. Again, Michigan's going to snort on you. They're going to empty their nasal cavities on you. You'll get 2 extra push when they get up off the ground to leave you down there. And they'll go back to the huddle with a smile, begging, pleading for another opportunity to tractor run over the front seven for Nebraska. And Nebraska has every chance to stand up and respond. Nobody's really afraid of J.J. McCarthy. As a matter of fact, I think the real thing in this space is, can Nebraska force J.J. McCarthy to beat them? Now, J.J. McCarthy has 200 yards rushing on the ground, and none of those are exceptional, but they're all big-time plays to move the chains at third and 6. Route tree breaks down, the route combinations break down, McCarthy will pull it down on 3rd and 6 and get you 7. They'll start it again. And then, once again, you're challenged with your commitment to execution. That's Michigan football. 2 high-level runners. Second runner, I believe, also is over 400 yards. Donovan Edwards, over 400 yards as well. 4 touchdowns from your backup. They do not possess the usual assortment of magical magicians at receiver at Michigan. They don't have them. They're good, and they're not great. 40 and 30 catches for 1A and 1B. A couple of touchdowns each. If I'm Bill Bush, I might want to challenge them and make them beat me. But that's just me. Again, we'll throw it to break. The folks from BetOnline who allow us to do this. Here's one for you. Michigan State, coming off a big win, will host Rutgers as a 12-point favorite. The over-under is 41. How about you, Mel Tucker? Job well done. Job well done. To close this out, I opened this by asking, are you ready? Fan base, are you ready? Go ahead and put your comments in the comment line. Is the expectation for things to go well or not well Saturday in Ann Arbor? What is the expectation? Point spread of 29.5. What are your thoughts? If you could whisper to this Husker team, what's the expectation of the fan base? What's the temperature of the fan base? You can watch the game with kind of one eye open, just hoping that it's not a bloodbath. Both eyes open, all in. Or are you cheering and rooting, pounding the table because the expectation is, once again, that you feel like this team is talented enough and good enough to not only go and compete in Ann Arbor, but to have an opportunity to shock the Big Ten Conference by knocking off Michigan in their own building. Now, what we know about the Big Ten Conference is that that's not a weird thing to say. That's not a weird thing to expect. Michigan is good defensively. They're good. They can run. They're long. They have size, well coached, disciplined. They don't make dumb mistakes defensively. They make you beat them. You know what? If you make, they'll cheer you on as you make 4 good plays in a row, hoping and assuming that the 5th one is going to be something that helps them and they get the ball back or get you off the field. They're well balanced. Their run defense and their pass defense. Listen, when you're 9-0, you figured out a way to make teams do things that they don't want to do when they don't want to do. They make you blitz against Michigan's offense when you don't want to. Why? Because they can take advantage of you with base route combinations and getting receivers open in basic spaces for easy throws for J.J. McCarthy. If you go man, McCarthy's going to put his foot in the ground and try to move the chains. End zone, they'll Death by 1,000 paper cuts. But are you willing? Are you prepared? Are you ready to make Michigan play their own game? Which is simply don't beat yourself against Michigan. Penalties. You can't have them against Michigan on the road. You can't do it. Holding calls on the offensive line. Unacceptable. Now, there are ways for Mark Whipple to figure this out because Logan Smothers and Chopper Purdy can both put their feet in the ground. Casey Thompson can put his feet in the ground. Anthony Grant can have another 100-yard game against Michigan. As a matter of fact, he probably has to for this thing to go the way we expect it. But I'll ask you, Husker Nation, I'll ask you, fan base, what is your expectation? What is the probability of this Husker team leaving Ann Arbor making you proud? And what would it take for that to be? What will make you proud of this Nebraska team when they leave the field Saturday against Ann Arbor? What's required? Husker Nation, it's early in the week. We know you're ready on early in the week, but will you be ready on Saturday? And more importantly, way more important, will the coaching staff, player personnel, will they be ready on Saturday at the Big House in Ann Arbor, Michigan? We'll answer more questions for you tomorrow. Promise you that. We'll be right back. I'm DP. Tomorrow, Locked On Huskers, Locked On Go Big Red, here on the Locked On Sports Network. Those three words. Come on, give them to me. Go Big